We banged on the Trump administration when they seemed to blow up risk adjustments in the Affordable Care Act a few weeks ago, so we should give them credit when they try to fix them. This is Healthcare Triage News. First, let's review. Risk adjustment means that insurers who wind up with lower risk patients overall, i.e. healthier, have to pay money to insurers who wind up with higher risk, i.e. sicker patients. It prevents the cherry picking that was prevalent before the Affordable Care Act. It's not about spreading money around so much as adjusting risk among insurers. About 6 months ago, a New Mexico judge vacated Health and Human Services rules governing risk adjustment. The judge's rationale? In his view, the agency failed to explain why risk adjustment had to be budget neutral and why it therefore had to use a statewide average premium instead of the insurer's own premiums to calculate risk adjustment transfers. And blaming that order, Health and Human Services decided that it lacked the authority to make any risk adjustment transfers for 2017 and 2018. As a result, $5.2 billion in transfers that would have been made were put on hold. When word leaked about Health and Human Services' decision in early July, all hell broke loose. Freezing the risk adjustment program looked like another case of sabotage from the Trump administration. They had options, as we discussed a few weeks ago, if they really wanted to keep making the payments. First, they could have issued a rule addressing the court's concerns. Second, they could have filed a notice of appeal and sought a stay pending appeal. Third, they could have construed the court's order to apply only to New Mexico. They did none of those things, and that made it look like sabotage. But last week, the Trump administration took a different tack. They put out a rule which explains in some detail why Health and Human Services decided to make the risk adjustment program budget neutral. A program that's supposed to equalize risk across a statewide population, the agency says, wouldn't work if it used each plan's individual rates as a baseline. Insurers would start to compete over how well they could discourage unhealthy people from signing up, and the whole point of risk adjustment is to stop that behavior. Plus, if risk adjustment were not budget neutral, HHS would have to go hat in hand to Congress for annual appropriations. And that's no way to maintain stability in an individual insurance market. Nicholas Bagley, who's forgotten more about this than I will ever know, says that this explanation is cogent and convincing. Its substance should fully address the court's concerns. And so the Justice Department informed the court last week about the new rule and asked that it take it into account when ruling on a still pending motion for reconsideration. Better still, the filing says that HHS will now proceed with carrying out the risk adjustment program for the 2017 benefit year, including collecting charges and making payments. Instead of waiting for the court to act, the Trump administration is moving forward on its own. Now, the plaintiff can still object and say this new rule hasn't gone through a notice and comment period. HHS will argue that it is good cause to skip that process here, and Nick agrees. Never bet against Nick. The judge could also refuse to buy the argument. He thought the original rule was defective, although Nick disagreed. Nick also thinks it'd be pretty outrageous to invalidate a rule because the agency failed to thoroughly explain itself, even though the agency has now thoroughly explained itself. Regardless, if we're going to argue that the Trump administration was sabotaging the Affordable Care Act a few weeks ago for starting this crisis, we should give them credit for trying to fix it. So that's done. More, please. Hey, do you like the show? Really helps if you subscribe or like it right down there. And another great way to help the show is a subscription service known as patreon.com, where you, the viewer, can help support the show for as little as $1 a month or more, whatever you like. We'd especially like to thank our research associates Joe Sevitz, Jonathan Dunn, and Crafty Geek, and of course, our Surgeon Admiral Sam. Again, if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/healthcaretriage, as well, httmerch.com for all your great healthcare triage merch, and of course, my book, The Bad Food Bible, still on sale in stores. Please buy a copy.